Yo, what's up? You just tapped into the No Paperwork Podcast. Your host, Nsane, right here with my boy Buns. Conversation without documentation. I'm your turf journalist. Jay King ain't here today. Got himself a case of the Rona. So I'm going to take control. And, man, it's good having you here on the podcast, man.
For sure, right on.
So we got Dope Flavors. You're the owner of Dope Flavors, right? This your brand?
Yes, sir.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, like, how you came up in the game and, a little bit of your backstory.
For sure. Well, born and raised in Pittsburgh, California, Bay Area, East Bay, small town. Cannabis culture is big in that city. Like wherever you go, like that's
Right.
been, cannabis has been a big part of my life for a long time. So I guess that's where everything derived from as far as, smoked at 11, started, getting into a little sack at
Dang,
13.
you were 11 years old smoking
When
this shit?
first hitting the first joint, yeah.
How'd that
It was
come
11,
about?
cough like a motherfucker. I was lit. And then, just chasing the high from there.
Was it your joint or was
No,
it
no,
something
it was
you
my
snuck it
family.
from-
No, it was my family, my older cousin's joint. And then, from there, just like I said, got in the sack at 13, just wanted to have it all in my life and really just appreciated, the taste, the culture, people, sharing community, other people
and that's
smoking
the
a
thing
joint.
about the cannabis culture, because it is a culture, it is a community. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's more than just like how it used to be taboo, like a drug. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I mean, weed addict. It's not a drug. It's more like, because I'm a Raider fan, so it's like
That's
like
right.
like Raider fans,
Same.
right? Like it's not just about football. It's about the culture. It's a whole different
Yeah.
experience, and that's what like weed is. It's a whole. I mean, because there's weed everything, right? So you got into it like that.
Yeah.
And you ever been in trouble for weed?
Oh, yeah, I caught a sales case for weed along with guns, violent felony. That's how I pretty much got into my advocacy, paroling from prison, advocating for the, justice impacted, and then it kind of just pivoted to where I'm doing that, plus advocating for social equity
Oh,
in
so
cannabis.
you're an advocate, so
Yeah,
you do
for
that, so
sure,
you
tough.
fight for that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, and it must be a change from before, like we were talking about earlier. How the laws have changed from before you get time years. There's a lot of people still doing time behind
real.
bars for weed, possession, for even smoking, and for now, the tide has changed and it's legal now. People are cultivating it, and it's not federally legal yet, but statewide. I mean, you can basically walk down the street smoking a joint, and nobody bats an eye. When before, it's like that was an excuse,
Yeah.
like, oh, you smell like marijuana, I'm gonna pull you out the car. So how has that changed your view of things?
Yeah, it was taboo. It was like demonizing, just like, even in California in some places. But when it went recreational, people that kind of like demonized it the whole time just started, picking up some edibles, started, rolling their first joint. A lot of new users. And that's why you saw the market spike like
Right.
back in that time, a little bit before COVID, during COVID. And yeah, that was all from new users coming up from the state.
Right, and a lot of it, there's a lot of medicinal uses for it
For
that
sure.
I mean, no one knew about because it was so taboo. Doctors couldn't even experiment with it.
Yeah, a lot of old people turn from their pharmaceuticals to cannabis because, at the end of the day, it is a medicine. Like,
Right.
a lot of ancient cultures, our ancestors used it as a medicine. It comes from the earth. And, people started getting tired of doing pills and started experimenting. A lot of older people started experimenting with cannabis,
yeah.
just like my parents.
Right.
Like, they was on it. Like, as soon as, everything was cool, like, they started, like, all right, they started asking me a little bit more questions, like, what's this like? What does this do? It's like, how would this help me in my ailments? And I'm
Right.
like,
See,
okay, so slow feeding them, and that's what I wanted.
my mom was totally against anything cannabis,
For real.
right? And then she fell, broke her knee, and she has arthritis in her knee. So my boy Big Loco, shout out Big Loco, he made some rubbing alcohol, marijuana infused rubbing alcohol.
Like a
And he was
topical.
like, yeah, and
Yep.
he was like, hey, give this to your mom, tell her to rub it. I was like, she's not gonna go for it. So I convinced her, like, here, mom, try this. She goes, oh, that works. What is it? I was like, it's marijuana infused alcohol, rubbing alcohol. She was like, oh wow. I was like, yeah, weed, mom, it's
real.
weed. She's like,
For real.
wow, I never thought I didn't think it would work like this. So now she's more open minded to it, and I tell her all the time, like, "Hey, mom, why don't you try to hit a joint?"
Yeah.
She's an old school teacher.
Yeah,
She's not.
it's a trip seeing that like that shift,
Right,
like from the generations, just like the boomers and on, just kind of like against it, and then they're like, okay, they're sick and tired of the pharmaceuticals, bro.
right.
Like,
I don't even
giving
like taking pills. You know what I mean? And
side
I'd rather
effects,
smoke a joint.
addiction, and it's that's the remedy right there,
Right.
cannabis.
I got shot in my leg, and I was like, I took half of a Vicodin, and I didn't like the way it felt, and I was like, fuck that. I didn't take another pill. I was just smoking like the whole time, and then,
I got
yeah,
I got a
like
story on that one. Huh?
for me, like it didn't kill the pain. It made me just forget about the pain. So I was able to, it made it
Yeah.
bearable. I was cool. And what was your story? You
No,
said?
I was locked up inside and I slipped on the dip bar and I got a shoulder injury. And I never really took like pharmaceuticals or pain pills like that. I was always smoking weed.
Right.
So they gave me like some Tramadol or something up in there. And they gave it to me like 2 pills, 3, 4 times a day. And I ended up building a high ass tolerance to it. I'm over here feeling fucking hella good. You know what I'm saying? And then they fucking cut me off cold turkey. And then I was addicted. Like they didn't wean me off
Right.
or
Yeah.
nothing. So I actually felt that what happens during withdrawals, like how you feel, how you get sick, and it's like, fuck, bro. Like, I don't want shit. I never want to feel this feeling for the rest of my life, type shit.
Right. It's kind of like a heroin, like kicking
Exactly.
heroin and stuff. And I think that's what the pharmaceutical companies want to do. They want to get you addicted to it, so you buy more, they sell
Facts.
more. And it's like, why not prescribe something that's natural, that's not addicting, that does the same, if not more? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and is that part of your advocacy too? Is pushing marijuana over pharmaceuticals? Is that
For sure.
part of it?
Like just because of my personal experience with that,
Yeah.
part of the advocacy, but also the main thing is social equity in cannabis.
Right.
Like individuals like me and you should have pathways to get licensed.
Oh yeah,
Like
definitely.
we pretty much caught cases that, incarcerated us, just because we had marijuana on us,
Right.
possession, intent to sell, whatever.
Right.
So we were entrepreneurs ahead of our time.
Right.
So they do have programs, they do have pathways to pretty much, get our licenses, create benefits and incentives for us to actually, go and do it. It's an industry that's, high in competition and it's really hard, but they create those pathways.
And they tax the shit out of it, though.
They
You know what I
do.
mean? And it to me, it's like it's unfairly taxed. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because they're taxing at a higher percentage rate than even tobacco companies.
Alcohol,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And I, personally, I'd rather deal with someone who's high as shit
Mm-hmm.
than someone who's drunk off their mind. I'd rather smell weed than smell tobacco breath. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just my personal opinion, but that's a lot of people's opinion because you can go somewhere, you go to a nightclub where they smoke, like Smokers Lounge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, no fights, no nothing, you know what I mean? But you go to a
Yep.
bar, just a regular bar, and you get people drunk, acting crazy, slapping girls on their ass and disrespecting, you know what I mean? And you don't want to deal with people who are drunk. I'd rather deal with someone that's high. So it's kind of crazy to me that, it's still a fight that you have to
Well,
advocate
those
for.
companies, big alcohol, big tobacco, they've been lobbying, the government for decades and generations now. So they're ingrained and they see cannabis as a, kind of like a rival, that's going to disrupt their profits type
Right.
stuff.
Well, they need to get involved in that. I mean,
I'm sure they are.
yeah, they should.
There's
Yeah.
sharks out there in the water right now. They trying to,
If the
everybody's
tobacco
making.
companies were smart, they would start making, marijuana cigarettes. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And shit, made, back in the day, the Asians in my hood, they would mix tobacco with weed. You know what I
Split
mean?
things,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if they were smart, they'd figure out something like that. But like Burner nowadays, you know what I mean? Like, dude, he was in Forbes, top 5 of the
Yeah.
richest entertainers due to his cookies company. You know what I mean? And that's a big step. How do you feel about that? Like to see somebody in your industry make it that big. I mean, he got more money than Dr. Dre.
I mean, shit. One, it's inspiring. The hustle, the grind. Like I was listening to him like back in his music when he was first collaborating like with the Jacka. Talking about the
Right.
weed and the different strains you would find in San Francisco.
Right.
And that was like the hype. Like I was going to the club every weekend just to go get me some cherry pie or that fire ass Romulan or Blue Dream when it came out.
Oh yeah,
Indoor Granddaddy.
Burner had the shit back in
Going
the day.
to the hemp center right there in the city. That's where he was at, bud tending.
Right.
Just get all the shit up. Like sometimes the jacket would even just buy up all the cherry pie
Yeah, shout out
right
Jack
before
R&B.
yeah before we got there. So man, that's seeing somebody like that. Like they got the recipe.
Right.
They trying to and they're also giving game on talk shows just like this.
Oh yeah,
You know,
but he's had the recipe for a long time, and I think that's how he was able to grow in his music because he was that man. You know what I mean? And a lot of people talk shit, and I remember there was a website, where chat room where you can chat called sickness.net. Shout out to sickness.net. They where a lot of people would talk shit about Burner, like, oh man, he can't
Yep.
rap, he sucks, and
Yep.
but he persevered. He kept going. He kept putting out, doing collabs, and now he's one of the richest artists. Top five
Gotta
on,
respect the
on
hustle.
Forbes. Like, man, you gotta respect that hustle
real.
because I mean, dude, for somebody who to come up and mostly off weed and music, shout out to Burn, man, Big Burn.
real.
Like, and do you have plans like that? Like, what are your plans for the future?
Should really be multi-state operators. Get dope flavors in other states, other parts of the world. The UK, Thailand. Thailand is fully legal.
Oh, damn,
They're
I didn't know
opening up
that.
dispensaries. They're opening up big cultivation sites, and you got people from America going over there. Big shout out Social Club because that's where you'll find these type of people. You go to Social Club, you'll find
What is Social Club?
Social Club is the app that Burner and Weed Maps collabed on for strictly
okay.
for the cannabis community.
See it.
So you're not going to get your posts pretty much taken off like IG and
Oh, okay. See,
TikTok.
I need to step my game up on
Yeah,
the
so you'll
Social
have
Club.
connoisseurs and just people in the culture, sign up for Social Club, and then they're just looking at all your stuff, and then you just start connecting with people all over the world.
Okay.
Compared to IG, they're over here limiting your access just because you're into cannabis, and
Right.
it goes against their community guidelines. So, that already hinders your business. It already hinders you, trying to get more followers or whatever you want.
I gotta make me a Social Club account. Shit, I'm gonna
do
start
it, man.
today.
Add
Shit.
me, I got you.
Yeah. And I see you brought some little flavors
Yeah,
here.
for sure.
What you got right here, cracking?
So in the black bags, we got Dragon Grease. That is Runts times Grease Monkey, and then we got the blue slime over here. That's Runts times Gorilla Breath 6 and the Y. That shit's pretty fire. Then we got Peaches and Cream, which is sour apple and rainbow sherbet. So we're like big on terps.
And these are your own strands. You crossbreed yourself.
No, we've actually worked with cultivators on all our projects right now. We're actually looking into actually doing our own cultivating and breeding ourselves.
Okay.
But right now, like we have the Peaches and Cream and the blue slime on shelves.
Okay.
You can get them on Burners on Hate. Ivy Hill in Oakland. Also, I'm trying to think where else. Rosemary Jane in Oakland. Okay. I'm trying to see what's up with SAC. Trying to get out here,
man.
see what it do.
You need to go out to Stockton with some of that shit. That's where I'm from. So
Okay.
hey, come go out to Stockton. We got a few cannabis clubs over there. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
yeah, that would be cool. So
But yeah, we're big on terps. Like we want to taste the weed. We want those different high effects from the different types of terpene profile. High THC is cool, but we want to taste that at the end of the day. We want that candy.
right. So you do other stuff than just the weed. Like, do you do any like medicinal products like ointments, creams?
You know what? I also have I got edibles.
You do edibles,
that
okay.
I was doing on the traditional side.
You didn't bring no edibles?
No, yeah, you know what? I actually got some for you. It's in the
Oh
whip.
yeah,
I
I'm
got some.
gonna have to get some of those, man.
Yeah,
I
I'm
love
big on edibles, and that's what works for my family. That's what works for my parents. With me, like
Right.
when I don't want to just chief all the time, just pop me an edible or two, and just melt on the couch, watch
Yeah.
a movie.
Shit, I remember the first time I had an edible, man. I had a Rice Krispie treat. Full on. Just the first time I ate I was seeing colors and
Everybody
shit
got
was
those
melting. I
stories,
was
huh?
like, man, what the hell is this? But I learned to take it, a little bit at a time, and I got my tolerance to it. So I'm like, okay, I love the edibles. So
Same,
yeah.
bro. I made that shift just because the high to me is just that's what I want. If I want a medicinal, I'm doing cannabis for a medicinal purpose right now. I'm gonna take me an edible.
Right. So like, are you like one of those people that is full, how do you say that when you're, you from the earth, you use like herbs and stuff to heal yourself, or
Yeah,
you know what I mean? As far as like, when you don't go to the doctor, you do, natural healing?
for sure. Like I try to avoid, anything like pretty much man-made, man-prescribed as possible.
Yeah, me
You
too.
may see, I mean, maybe some ibuprofen here and there for, after a workout or just got a many-ass headache, but it's usually just smoking weed, taking edibles. I'm just kind of conscious on what I eat. With supplements, I be taking sea moss. Just
Oh yeah, I fuck with the sea
yeah,
moss.
try to
Yeah,
get as
that
close to
actually
plant
helped
based
me.
as
The sea
possible.
moss helped me to get over COVID when I had it the first time.
It
So
is, yeah,
yeah.
like boost your immune system, and that's what I like about it, especially like during the winter, the fall season when everybody's getting sick.
And I don't think people understand how much weed helps people, and not just weed, but just different products that come from the weed, and how much it helps people. It helps depression a
For
lot.
sure.
You know what I mean? People don't understand that, when you're getting depressed, or you're trying to kick a stronger drug, or you're going through something in your life, man, smoke a joint. A lot of people who have anger issues, smoke a joint, man.
For real.
Relax, calm down. Like, it helps a lot, and I don't think people really understand that, and who don't smoke.
Mhm.
I know, of course, smokers understand that, but I mean, is that something that you're also trying to get past through your, or trying to let people know in your advocacy?
For sure. Like one, our people need to be at the table we need licenses for
Right.
sure. Like we need those pathways. And two, alternative medicine. And, there's a movement in Oakland, it's called Free the Plant. And, that's a public service announcement in itself, free the plant.
Right.
Whether it's cannabis, it's mushrooms, these plants are proven to have medicinal purposes and they work for me. I know they work for other people. And, just breaking down those barriers that people that should be indulging in this should
Right.
actually start trying it.
Right. And mushrooms are still illegal,
Yeah.
which, I mean, it's natural. It's almost, it almost coincides with marijuana. So why not let people, do what they've done? I mean, people
Sure.
have been doing mushrooms and smoking weed for thousands of years.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not something that's new. This is something that's been around. And like, yeah, just the bureaucracy of it, and the politics of it, I think is what holds it back. But the more people that advocate for it, like yourself, there's more that it gets to in the face of people, and the more that I guess older politics get out of politics and younger people get into it. I don't think people understand that, you know, uh, politics is a game of numbers.
Hmm.
And, I was always taught, like, hey, your vote doesn't count, man. Don't, why even bother? And I never used to vote, but you got to understand that the people in power know that the votes count.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they're in power and they didn't think votes count, why would they want other people to vote? You know what I mean? Like, you got these suburban white people that, they vote, they use it, and they're the
Hmm.
ones in power. So why not us go out and do that? There's more of us. If we went out, we would, and everybody voted, we would have some power and say so. It's the power, it's what they say that we don't have the power that makes them have the power. So the
No, for
more people,
sure. Like 100%. Like you do got to go out and vote. Like it really does matter because if you're pushing a certain issue or trying to change something in society, like making cannabis legal, making, mushrooms legal, you got to go out and vote. You got to
right,
go out and get signatures. You got to support, the
there's
right
power in
candidate.
numbers.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
support the right candidate who's going to push that policy. And then you got to go and vote for it. And,
And I'm not into politics. I'm by any means. I
yeah,
don't. I don't give a shit about Democrat, Republican, left,
yeah.
right, whatever. But I do know there's power in numbers and
You
organizing.
got to fix issues.
Right.
Yeah,
Organizing and being united. You know what I mean? Like, I
for
mean,
sure.
just like Cesar Chavez back in the days. I mean, Cesar Chavez, he marched for people to have, rights in the fields, and labor rights, and he won because he organized and got people together. And if you ain't got workers, then you ain't got product. You ain't got product,
So
you go broke. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the same thing. And that's good that you advocate for, marijuana and getting it out there, and, your whole company. So going back to, dope flavors. How'd you come up with the name?
I mean, dope is kind of like a calling card to the Bay. That's where I'm from. I use it every day. Like, oh, that's dope, or I'm smoking on dope. You know, like I said, calling card to the Bay. Dope flavors, like smoking on flavors. That's what we're smoking on. Different flavors. We
Right.
highly value that terpene profile, that connoisseur. Smoke. The black and white. That's like the skull and crossbones. My city's known for the Pirates, Pittsburgh Pirates. That's another calling card right there. And then also coming out of the black market.
Right.
Like this is us. That we actually come from the culture. We come from 215 days. We come from when it went medicinal and back in the 90s in California.
Okay.
Ex-military. The hippies going in the Emerald Triangle, growing
Right.
it. Hiding from the
Oh yeah,
feds.
so it gets deep.
It's deep.
Right.
There's a philosophy behind our brand. We started with advocacy. We're connoisseurs. We from the streets, and like I said, in my city, like we got stoners, like we got connoisseurs in Pittsburgh. And everybody, you got to have that. If in order for you to sell weed in my city, you got to have that dope.
Right.
So everybody got that dope. So
So
just for us, being different and finding our niche, that's it. Got to put dope in the bag.
yeah,
So
dope flavors.
hence dope flavors.
So how would I how like you talk about advocacy, so how would I be a part, or how would anybody else help join your advocacy, or be an advocate ourselves? Like, how can I get involved?
Support social equity brands. Support these brands that are pretty much putting on for the city. They go the long route. They're filling out the paperwork. They're educating themselves on being an entrepreneur. Getting into these, positions of power to where it's not white corporate that has a bunch of stores just looking out for, profits.
Right.
It's you have these social equity operators, companies, brands, they're allies in the city council, they're allies in the state on university campuses that are pushing the policy to help individuals like that get in that position and then put their communities on, putting people like me on, putting people like you on.
Right.
If your city, opened up a cannabis social equity program. And so and if you're not talking about it and organizing about it, then the state, white corporations are just going to take over,
Right.
and just leave us
And which
out.
they started doing.
Oh yeah, for
You know what I
sure.
mean? Because there's big corporations that bought up land and started cultivating. You know what I mean? And they're trying to get to that burner level.
Yeah,
You know.
they're trying to push out the small legacy farmers and brands
Right.
and companies and people like us because we actually come from the culture and, just get us out the way.
So if I wanted to start my own company,
Mm-hmm.
do you got any advice for me or anybody else that's watching, like how to get started?
Find a niche and, pretty much find your brand. Like, what would you call it? Like, have a purpose behind it, And with your niche, I mean, like, what lane you gonna go? You're gonna go the connoisseur side. You're gonna go like the homegrown, like, hey, I grew this myself, small batch. Maybe you just do edibles, or pretty much find that niche where you want to hop in and then just work hard.
And
I feel like
what's the
there's plenty of
legalities
space.
behind that? Like,
The legal. Oh, if you want to actually start your brand and
Right,
get okay,
right.
well, that is like you start on the streets, bro. Like you really just start on the streets and just
hustle.
really just hustle, be in those trenches. Because right now, getting a like just hopping in like a legit
Right.
like brand, there's so many hoops and hurdles and like barriers to where you got to be capital heavy, And I'm just saying, say, hypothetically, it's persons of color, who got locked up, for it in the past and just wants to do it right this time.
Right.
If you don't have a social equity program in your city, which most cities don't, you got to start from scratch. So you're competing with these big companies with all this capital and resources versus a small mom and pop brand to where you really ain't got no chance.
Right.
So you do got to utilize your resources, your community, see who's already in it, start soaking up game, and then it's really, your network is your net worth.
Well, I've seen, like, speaking of network, like you got a lot of these cannabis clubs that come together, or cannabis conventions where they have booths and stuff. And I've been to a couple, and actually there was a couple in Stockton that happened and stuff. Do you get involved in stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. That's pretty much the movement. Like if you want to start rubbing elbows and meeting new people, possibly get more opportunity, like that's how you start. You start your brand. You start something you want to rock behind and be proud of, and you just start shaking hands, be like, hi, my name is such and such from the No Paper podcast, super dope,
Right.
and then you just start rocking with it. And then, as time goes on and people see the consistency, you're pretty much good at what you do,
Right. And that's
you know?
something that I think we want to get started in the future is
Hmm.
having like getting conventions going with
For sure.
no paperwork podcast,
I love to
having,
support it.
yeah, just stuff like that, just getting like cannabis users together, getting musicians together and stuff like that. I think we want to expand and go further. So we'd enjoy your help or any advice or anything we
So,
can, you can do to help us get started, and we can help you also. You know what I
mhm.
mean? So,
For real, that's what it is. That's the culture.
yeah.
Bringing people together with cannabis, with music. You find cannabis in a lot of different things
Oh
nowadays.
yeah, and it's not just the urban thing. It's not just hip hop thing because
Nope.
you got, I mean, you've had Willie Nelson smoking weed since back in the days. Cheech and Chong, and
For sure.
marijuana is more. It's a universal recreational drug, right? I don't really like calling it a drug, but it's universal. You know what I mean? Across all generations, all
Yeah,
genres, and a lot of areas. You know what I mean? Which is cool. It kind of gives people who are in that game an advantage, right?
for
And
sure.
do you see that with like people who buy from you, customers, like the different walks of life, different types of people that purchase from you?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like we run into people on the music side, on art, people that just like our merchandise, like our clothing, and just really, in our advocacy side, where pretty much like our colleagues, pretty much just fighting for policy. They're rooting for us, and then also too, just in the culture, just like how you say, throwing events like sessions or little conventions, and just bringing people together. Like those are the places where you got to start. That's where you pretty much make your name.
Right. So, what is your plan for the future? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Like I said, being a multi-state operator, taking it worldwide, really just also giving back to the community, kind of educating people on, that our industry is unique because there's so many different career pathways you could stick into the cannabis industry, whether it's
Right.
data, a lot of technologies involved into it. So, you could just take like anybody that's formerly incarcerated and put them into a good paying job, in the cannabis industry or something
Right.
something decent. So creating, those type of pathways, whether it's, getting into the cannabis industry through education or through jobs, I want to do something like that
Well, can felons, ex-felons can they work in the cannabis
in
industry?
California.
Oh, they can.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's something I did not know either.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that opens up I mean, because opportunities for a lot of people because I mean, they can't even get like warehouse jobs
Hmm.
because they're felons or you can't even have weed in your system, drug tests. I don't think now in California they passed a law where you can't discriminate for having weed in your
Yeah,
system,
you,
right?
you can, but I don't know about maybe private companies. It gets a little funny
Right.
because they still like to do what they like to do. But whether you're growing the plant, whether you're measuring it, whether you're selling it, whether you're making graphic designs for a bag, like there's just so many ways you can get money out of cannabis.
Right.
Even if you're not an entrepreneur or just selling it.
And that's big. That's thinking outside the box, which
So
is, I mean, so what advice can you give to anybody that's, thinking about starting their brand or, thinking about advocating for marijuana? Can you give any advice or, maybe there's something that you should have done that you didn't do or you did that you shouldn't have?
really, it's well, first off, just you got to be relentless, whether you're trying to sell cannabis in the legitimate market or just trying to push policy in cannabis, because there's always people trying to knock down your movements or your initiatives into passing certain policies so we can get more,
Right.
especially for the people. You got to be relentless because this is pretty much, this is the green rush. Like you already have, like I said, tobacco and big pharma ingrained. So
Right.
now if cannabis is going to be descheduled federally, it's going to go interstate commerce. It's going to be an import, might be an export, and it's going to get big. The
Right.
industry is just going to grow. Right now it's still illegal going federal, But if you see, having that future vision and you want to be everywhere, just like how tobacco and big pharma is now, their access should be looking into positioning yourself like that.
Right. And, speaking of going interstate and, we had that recently, we had that whole issue with Brittany Garner. How do you say her name? The
Grainer,
WNBA's
yeah,
Grainer.
yeah.
Yeah. She was looking at 10 years in a Russian prison
Oh
for
yeah.
having a small amount of marijuana. What's your take on that?
I mean, it sucks because there's still people like that locked up in our country, still locked up for nonviolent marijuana offenses. I'm in the feds and the state. So, I mean,
You're talking about Russia, man. First of all, if it was me, I wouldn't have took that over there. I'm going
I
to
wouldn't
another
even
country.
chance that because their
Man,
prison and you do not want to go to jail.
I
in
wouldn't
Russia
even
for
want
sure.
to. I wouldn't even spit on the floor in another country because I don't know what their laws are about that. Because
Right.
shit, being locked up in another country, that's a whole. And plus, they don't like Americans anyway. And
Get 10 years.
man,
Like
yeah,
she did.
and especially if you're any kind of celebrity over there, they kind of take advantage. Shit, I've been to Mexico. I wasn't a celebrity, but I'm like, damn, man, shit, can I get a break? You know what I mean? My grandma used to always tell me, you go to Mexico, keep $100 in your sock, and if the cops ever pull you over, pull that $100 bill out your sock and don't say nothing, just hand it
Go
over.
home pass for
And
sure.
let me tell you, that worked, and it's real. And so other countries is, it's crazy to just go somewhere and just take that chance.
The most extreme of places too to
Right.
get caught with cannabis.
Especially we're going, damn near going to war with Russia right now. You know what I mean? We're on the
Yeah.
brink, so there are lightweight enemies, and you're going to, you're
Yeah.
going to the lion's den with meat. You know what I mean?
I feel like she should have been smarter too, just because there's a lot on the line when going to a foreign country like that.
Right.
And then you're
Definitely.
playing with the team. You're putting not only yourself but your teammates and who you represent, your sponsors. Like yeah, I understand. Like yeah, it is a medicine, but you at a professional standpoint, you're going to Russia for the
Right.
Olympics. You got to move smarter than that.
Yeah, and you gotta know the laws of where you're going. You know what I mean? You gotta understand that certain things. Just because you're an American, you're free here. You're not free over there. That's their country. That's their laws.
Yeah.
And they had to trade some arms dealer for a WNBA star, and that's a whole controversy in itself. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like
Should have been
why
responsible.
put yourself in that predicament? You know what I mean?
Why put your country, why put your fellow Americans, in that predicament as well, I think it gets a little deeper because of that. Now they had to make that trade.
Right.
But if you were on top of game and you were doing what you were supposed to be doing in the first place, like it would have just none of that would have happened.
Right. Exactly.
Just be game tight.
So, I mean, what's your message to anybody? Now's your chance to say what you want to say. If you got a message, whether it be for advocating, whether it be personal or whatever, what's your message to anybody listening or watching right now?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me.
Of
Shout
course,
out
definitely.
the No Paperwork Podcast, all the homies behind this. Also big shout out to the team. If it wasn't for them, their hard work, their sacrifice, just, being consistent, which is a key element, the dope flavors wouldn't be where it's at. Shout out to my mentors, people put me on game, people within, our people, within our circle, within our families, just,
Right.
Expressing game and schooling me on how to survive and be successful in this industry. And, people pushing policy, or whether it just be for justice impacted or, for cannabis and social equity. Like I said, be relentless, really just educate yourself and learn from others, be a sponge, because, that's the only way you're going to get by is adapting, keeping up on your education, and really finding those allies who are really just going to be part of that team or be part of that movement to, be a solid movement to get things done, make positive change.
And we're gonna bring you back again, and we're gonna see how far you've come.
sure.
And then when you come back, hopefully I'm gonna tap in with you, and I'm gonna be part of your advocacy too. You know what I mean? I'll be here to help you out, and I know Jay King, if he was here, he'd be part of it too. So
It's all good,
You know,
man.
any help that we can give you, You know what I mean?
Bug your city council member.
I don't know who my city council member is, but I'm gonna
gotta
bug
learn.
the shit out of them.
Yeah, you gotta learn.
Education is the key, and like like I said before, man, voting counts and knowing what you're voting for. Don't be a dummy just checking anything.
Yeah, Nip said it too, man. It's like you got gangsters at city council meetings, pushing policy, pushing movement for the block, for the community, and we need to be at the table.
Yeah, and man, I want to thank you, man. I want to thank you for bringing some of this exclusive, nice weed over here, man. Something to smoke on.
For real, enjoy.
I plan to get high on the way home.
Thank you, bro.
Hey, man. Hey, I love it. I love your movement, man. I appreciate everything you do. Dope flavors, no paperwork podcast.
Yes, sir.
Man, where can they pick this up at? How can they get a hold of you?
You can find us on our Instagrams. We're at _D_flavors, dope _flavors_. You can also find us in dispensaries right now. I think the closest one, we got a few in the Valley. We got some in Modesto. I just came from Manzanita's in Merced right now. You can find us on Burners on Hate, Union Station in San Francisco, Ivy Hill, Rosemary Jane in Oakland. We're at Backpack Boy locations. We're also at Gorilla RX and Josephine and Billy's in Los Angeles as well. So just hit us on DM us on the IG. We're also on Social Club Dope Flavors. We're verified.
Dope Flavors.
Weed map us. Shout out Fengus. Shout out the whole team. We're in music with them. We got Slaps, second wave coming January 1st.
Okay.
So we in the music thing too.
Oh, cool, man. You're
Yes,
going to have
sir.
to get me on some of your shit.
I got you.
All right, man. Yeah, all right, man. Again,
Thanks
thank you,
again.
man.
Appreciate
This is
it.
No Paperwork Podcast, and we out this bitch.
Right on.